caution you to that because one of the things I like about the NFL over college football is Sundays are crazy all the time. The Steelers, and I was around to watch it, dominated the 70s, a true dynasty. The 49ers dominated the 80s, a true dynasty, and they got upset all the time. New England, the year they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, were destroyed by Matt Patricia and the Lions in the same year. I don't think this was as big an upset as we think. The Giants have been in 8 straight close games. They've won 5 of 7. They're going to win their division and host a playoff game. And defensively, their defensive line is excellent, and Seattle's primary weakness is their offensive line. Now, it's an upset. But if you've been, and I've been on this now for 2 months. When they were 1-7, I said, they remind me of Miami. And this is counterintuitive to what we think, but at the end of last year, Joy and I both said this. The Dolphins were better than New England. In the last 9 games, they were a better football team. And it's counterintuitive for a lot of you because this team the Giants started 0-5. They are a better football team than many of the teams that will make the playoffs. But this is more important to me. As a talk show host, and you never see political talk show hosts do this, that's why I just don't listen to most of them. As a sports talk show host, I think it's my responsibility to admit when I am wrong. It gives me credibility because nobody's right all the time in politics or sports. I thought Dave Gettleman, the GM of the Giants, was a goofball. I thought he was horrible in front of the microphone. I thought he was goofy. I thought he was completely out of his element. He did 3 things. I didn't like any of them. He hired Joe Judge. I'm like, what? He drafted Daniel Jones, 6th, and he traded OBJ. He was right on all of them. And by the way, I did like his Leonard Williams trade from the Jets. That I liked. But to show you the power of the Giants' culture, because Leonard Williams didn't suddenly get way better. Leonard Williams has more sacks this year for the Giants than he did 3 years for the Jets. That is about coaching and culture. And I got to be honest about it. I just didn't like the Daniel Jones draft. I didn't get the Joe Judge hire. There was a lot better coaches I thought more experienced. And the OBJ trade, I understood the criticism. But yesterday was just a great defensive team facing a Seahawks team with a bad O-line. It's now the Seahawks' primary weakness. Russell Wilson wasn't terrible, but he was sacked 5 times under duress. And this is a well-coached team. We spend a lot of time on this show criticizing winners that lose. Sometimes we have to give credit that losers that win. And this Giants team isn't a great team with a great record. But they won that game. They were clearly all day, 3.5 hours, the better team. There was never a moment in that game Seattle, I felt, was a better team on that Sunday. It was like, oh, Giants just, their defensive line is controlling Seattle's offensive line. Therefore, they're controlling the football game. And I got to admit when I was wrong, the Giants are formidable. Their GM, by the way, Gettleman, I thought had a very, very good draft as well. And I said that after the draft. I'm like, this is a pretty good draft. And I don't think this is all about the upset. I really don't. I think we're going to look back at this in 6 weeks if the Giants win a playoff game and go, that wasn't that big of an upset. You know, when Miami beat New England last year at the end, woo, what an upset. This morning you're like, not much of an upset. Miami's good, and New England's okay. Joy with the news.
No. Turn on the news.
Best winning percentage since week 6 in the NFL. Chiefs, Saints, Steelers, Dolphins, Giants. So since week 6, it's like a really good football team.
No, we've been talking about the Giants for a while now, really all season. They are the Dolphins of last year.
Yeah, they're an off season away from a little more dynamic offensive personnel. Daniel Jones gets healthy from being like, oh, watch out for the Giants.
And think they're doing all of this in a COVID year.
Yeah.
It's very impressive. Well, congratulations to the other New York team. The tank is still on.
Oh, my God.
The Jets were so close. They were so close to messing it all up. But at the end of the day, they're the Jets. So they did it. They were on the verge of their first win of the season. Is showing the video now. Derek Carr threw, which the Raiders are a whole other conversation because you can be excited that you got the win, but...
Yeah, yikes.
So he threw a 46-yard touchdown pass to Henry Ruggs to take the lead with only 5 seconds remaining. Curiously, on that final play, defensive coordinator Greg Williams called for a cover 0 blitz that sent 8 rushers
and
at the quarterback
safety.
And 3 defenders in man-to-man coverage. No safety. The only way they win this game is exactly how they won this game. So you would think you would drop a few defenders back, considering that the blitz does not really be that helpful. Well, he received a lot of criticism for that decision, and he is no longer with the Jets. He was reportedly fired this morning.
Should be.
Adam Schefter tweeted that. Yes, I mean, it seems a bit reactionary, considering that I'm imagining most of that staff will not be there next year.
But you know what? That's okay. Listen, there are moments you cross a threshold that is not tolerable.
Yeah.
And this was a threshold that was not. I'm not a big fan of firing in season, but there are thresholds. You're like, okay, you embarrassed us. You know, all I could think about, this is the way my goofy mind works, all I could think about is that went from a miserable 5-hour flight to Vegas to one of the best flights home of the year for the Raiders. That went from 5 hours, nobody talks on the plane, to, oh my God, we played like crap, stole it, and everybody's drinking Modelo's on the way home.
I don't know if you're celebrating if you're the Raiders, because you've not looked great the past couple weeks, but yeah. I do, a win is a win.
It's a win.
I thought that was a hideous win by Miami yesterday, for example. This was a hideous win from the Raiders.
Yeah.
You are just how it's a great win for Baker and the Browns. Don't get too high. You have to come back and work just as hard next week. This was a bad day for the Jets. Well, I guess it's a good day for Jets fans.
Right.
But I'm a little conspiracy theory with this too, though.
Yeah. So a lot of people are.
You're like they kind of called that so that they could lose, and then you fired Greg Williams.
I saw a lot of that. Yeah. I'm not going to go there, but it does almost smell too perfect to be true.
It does smell perfect.
Yeah.
Which generally means that it's not.
Right.
So the Chiefs clinched their spot in the playoffs with a 22-16 win over the Broncos last night. That was another game that didn't go the way that we all expected it to.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, again, ugly. This is the Sunday of cold weather. Some good teams have ugly games.
It's that time of year. Kansas City's offense struggled to get in the end zone, scored only one touchdown, but paired that with 5 field goals to get the win, so a kicking night. This will be the Chiefs' 6th straight trip to the playoffs, which is the longest streak in team history, and they can clinch their 5th straight AFC West title with a win next week over Miami. Very strange game for the Chiefs last night. Kelsey had a great day, 8 receptions, 136 yards, and a touchdown. He became the first tight end in NFL history to post 5 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He
is the best tight end in the game. Kittle would be, but he's hurt too often. Kelsey is he is this generation. He is Gronk, but more vertical. He's a great Hall of Fame player.
He is separated from the rest of the league.
He's really unique. He is a great all-time football player.
That was a really strange scenario with the Tyreek Hill touchdown, though.
It's funny on the sideline. He told Andy, he's like, I didn't see it. I mean,
but how could he tell? I mean, of course he thought he dropped it.
Well, and you have pads on, so it's not touching body. In football, you got pads on. It's laying on your arms. Yeah. Somebody's laying on you.
No, it's not like he had it in his hands the whole time so he could know that he caught it.
Yes.
I was so weird that they just rushed to get the kickoff. I don't know. You
would think somebody in the press box would scream, Andy.
But it was so quick.
I know.
Even us, even the broadcast was like, oh, wait a minute. Slow down. Give it a second. Give it a beat. It would have really changed the game. But the Broncos, on the other hand, are 4-8 and currently have the 10th pick in the draft. I mean, it was an ugly game. They uglied it up for the Chiefs last night in division. But the Broncos are going to have to make some changes next year. So, Carson Wentz was benched in the second half.
Yes, he was.
For Jalen Hurts yesterday. And despite the 30-16 loss to the Packers, Hurts did provide a spark for the Eagles offense, and they made it interesting very quickly once he got out there. Now Doug Peterson will have to decide which quarterback will get the start against the Saints.
You got an interesting decision to make this week as to who your starting quarterback will be. Have you made it yet?
No.
What will go into the decision?
I'm going to look at a lot of things. Where we are as a team, obviously. I'm going to look and just go back and evaluate, the position and just, when I make my mind up, I'll know. But I'm not there yet.
They did get within reach. Obviously, it's the Packers, so Aaron Jones took care of that also nice and quickly. But
Jalen Hurts looked capable, and Jalen Reagor, the receiver, had a really nice special teams touchdown. Yeah. So that was like 2 good news. We drafted our 1st and 2nd round picks, actually played pretty well. I thought that was on a takeaway that nobody cares about. You have 2 guys that had moments.
If you look at the situation that they're in, it's really bleak because you're paying Carson Wentz so much money. And if you decide to go with Jalen Hurts next week and he plays well for the entire game, or at least capable for the entire game, after what you've seen from Carson Wentz this year, what do you do? And at this point, how do you go back to Carson Wentz? I mean, that was significant that Jalen went. It's not that Jalen went out there and, blew the doors off and won the game, but he certainly looked capable, and he did provide there was an obvious difference to the offense once he was out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certain combinations in life that are bad. Like, my car is really expensive and it's always broken down. That's bleak. My quarterback, we're tied to him for years at $35 million, and he stinks. That there's no sunlight. There, you can't see the horizon. Like, the Jets are bad, but Trevor Lawrence in April. The Jags are bad. Justin Fields. You can see